Hey, Teddy here. Sorry I've been over months late with this one, but it's worth the wait in this case. But anyways, today I've got some news. As usual, I got news that I need to give out and things I feel like need to be addressed. First off, let's get on with the news, shall we? Now, in case if you're all wondering what's been going on with Casualty's Rimshot right now, well, it's been decided that for the time being, it will be on hiatus until further notice of the pandemic is over. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's not to say that I can never do any work on casual reviews while we're in the pandemic. I can if I want to. However, the latest one I can complete, the episode I'm currently making right now, on this pandemic would be once I pass the script. But, yeah. And speaking about casual reviews, not sure if I mentioned this just yet, but anyways, if I didn't, here we go. I'm sure all you guys may be wondering regarding what's been going on with who I have as my editor right now. Well, from before, I did consider having someone from Spark named Ahmed, but then someone who used to live in the same group almost named Joey Heller one day expressed interest in my editor, so that's where I just knew that I had to. That's when I come to realize I'll be for the better if I had no choice but to rightfully fire Ahmed and hire Joey. And I know you're all going to be thinking here, what went wrong? Where the fridge can things go possibly wrong if I did let Ahmed be my editor? I mean, don't get me wrong, he's not bad per se. Definitely not as bad as he's regarding, that is for sure. If anything, the worst thing he's ever did to me that made me want to fire him but instead hire Joey would be, well, when I approached him to be Ahmed to be my editor in the past, let's just say he would always rush me to write the script for this episode, which, don't get me wrong, never would I be opposed to. It's just that, well, with the case of the episode that I'm currently making right now, I am not even going to lie when I say this, that I still have long ways to go to be able to write the script. However, one thing I will honestly say for sure, on where I am with the next Casualties is I'm almost done watching some Disney movies that I need to watch. Yeah. And, when it comes to Joey, at least, he is kind enough to let me do whatever I want to do, which I just I will want to do anyways, but yeah. And, in case if you're all wondering what's been going on with work on parodies right now, well, for those who don't mind producing more edgy content whenever I feel like the time is right, well, let me tell you all that production for my uncensored air transformation video has finally begun. And when you guys hear me say that I will want to make an uncensored version of air transformation, I know it's not what all of you expect me to do, especially if you're one of those people who are more used to, say, and hear me produce family-friendly content. However, you can all say what you want about when I make air transformation parodies in general, but there's one thing you cannot deny about me as well. While yes, it is true that, typically speaking, that I would normally do family-friendly content, of course. However, there's more that make me stand out for who I am as a content creator on my own than just the fact that I mostly do family-friendly stuff. Of course, if you think me producing Aerostar Mason Pierce was really that bad for whatever reason. Well, let me tell you, just have no, or you had no idea, or you may have somehow forgotten, well, that if, say, you're familiar with, say, if you know me very well in terms of what I love in general, either that or if you're familiar with any of my past work, including whether it be at McBad, my work at McBell's, my work at Casual's Rimmershot, or work at Pennies or whatever, then you should also know, yes, that means you, Harry Henry, as if you're watching this, that I carry such a long history in doing work on fan-made Disney projects as well, let alone just do things that can involve use of Disney in general either way. Oh, you don't believe me? Well, of course, for comparatives, of course, I already made another scene from an animated Disney movie to a meme of some sort, being the Disney princess scene from Ralph Breaks the Internet, and then of course there would be my own set of St. Ham's parodies I would consider making based on Disney IPs that either you can watch on my YouTube channel right now as if you're watching this, or are currently in production, or I will when I feel like it. And when taking a look back, from what is said to be my most viral out of all my parodies, it would have to be Esteemed Ham's fandub based on a Disney character, being in this case Donald Duck. Not only that, but also, for the first two episodes of Casual's Bear Rimshot, they were both Disney themed, hence giving Disney Guardian on his behalf the idea that I intend to make the show Disney themed just because, when take a look at what I did for the first canon episodes are really real ones, you get the idea. And yeah. And speaking of which, as you guys all may recall, that is, if you paid attention, the next episode of Casual Spirit that I would consider releasing that I'm currently making right now when I feel like it is actually Disney, whether you all like it or not. Not only that, but also an understanding of how my friend Don and his behalf can be regarding what he would always have to be the company representative at Bowser. Always get the most amount of attention compared to the rest. It is none other than the creators of Mickey Mouse would have to be the company behind Mickey Mouse itself, Disney, whether you all like it or not. And yeah. And yeah, I get it that not a lot of you expect me to produce adult content, So in understanding the reality of why I want to make not just limited to an uncensored illustration, but also my own set of illustrations is also uncensored, like I said before, please be mindful of how that I carry such a long history in doing work on fan-made Disney projects. Anyone who would carry such ill feelings for me to make such things, I not reserve the right to report you, but also block you as well. That means you, Harry Henry. Again, I get it that it's not what everyone would expect me to, but yeah, If you're really one of those people who do have ill feelings making such things just because, what is said to be the actual age of area, well, I think you'd be better off watching other stuff. Bigger and better stuff I was producing here on my YouTube channel you can all look forward to. But also, when understanding the character Ariel, she is tall. She's not like your typical pianist character, nor your typical ice climber, or stuff along those lines. But yeah. But anyways, so, yeah, now that I got that out of the way, I got a lot of stuff as usual I just knew I had to address. Now, I'm pretty sure all of you guys who are watching this may be wondering whatever it is I have to address this time. Well, in case you haven't noticed, for my birthday this year, I hosted a virtual fundraiser on Facebook. Which, well, yeah, and I'm sure everybody who enjoy what I do, who would do anything for whatever it is I feel like doing, didn't get to participate in one for Easter this year as I would have wanted to. As much as I'd love to, I just didn't need to up to that point in time. Yeah, the next virtual fundraiser I would host would be in the end of May during the entire Memorial Day season, tied in with a holiday called Geek Pride Day, which for those who don't know what I'm talking about here, it's a national holiday that's pop culture themed, which I find to be interesting, to celebrate being somebody who loves pop culture. But anyways, let's get on with the winners for not one but two viewers' choice. Not one but two viewers' choices both rolled into one. A viewer's choice dedicated to not one but two big anniversaries I really, really wanted to celebrate. As for what one, let's find out. Okay then. The winner for Vanellope's Disney Princess fan dub for the 100th anniversary of the entire Disney Company would be Lilo. Whereas the winner for Green Eggs and Ham audiobook for the 100th anniversary of the Walt Disney Company would be one read by Homer Simpson and Bart Simpson. Very interesting, I will say. And the winner for an Arrow's Transformation parody would be a two-way tie between Belle and Stark Butterfly. If I had to pick one, well, let's just say, whether y'all like it or not, it's been decided on my behalf that I just knew I have to go as well. Star Butterfly. And when you hear me say that I would be nice, when you guys see me being more nicer to Star Butterfly than I ever did before, I'm sure y'all be shocked at first, especially if you were there when I first attended medical stuff. Y'all know what I'm talking about, Which, yeah, when it comes to those times, my final years in high school, where I was so harsh on was forced to be either way, I'm gonna be honest here that I did so out of frustration over Zuchi Guardian, who, from my understanding, can never be accepting the fact that, regardless where it goes in my entire creative life, I'm still straight. So you can see why I would call Zuchi Guardian as a sex offender. No, Zuchi Guardian, never did you hear me say that you committed the crime of rape. Even if I did, I may not have meant that. What I meant to say was that, you always love being a sex offender when engaging with guys like me. I say that for it does come to mind saying that there's a lot of guys like myself, for example, there are a lot of guys who don't like them who exist, who you like to call it as gay. And let's be honest here. A lot of guys who call out as gay are actually not gay. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have nothing against gay people, person, just not gay. Person is what I'm trying to say. I mean, you can all say what you want about My Little Pony, but the fact that I may let My Little Pony characters continue to pop up in the world of Epic Bells to no end still doesn't change my mind that I'm still straight. So, yeah, still think I'm gay? Then you are a retarded sex offender for saying that. But moving on, as for the winner for the Transformation parody that I would do in honor of the 5th anniversary of Epic Bells 5, let's find out, and, well, looks like my cousin Jackie won for this one. Congrats to my elder cousin Jackie. Yay, it's funny it's funny that none of you, from what I'm seeing, didn't even bother voting for neither Sophia Bavar nor Brianna Gouge. I'm gonna be honest here that if I can think of a perfect time when I would consider making extra space based on those two beautiful tiny American Ardley girls, well, I will say this: I do plan on doing it in honor of two individuals who they on their own carry. I would consider making extra space based on them in honor of well, with the case of Sophia Bavaro, I would do so in honor of James Levine. Whereas for Brianna Gallo, I do so in honor of Becky, of a sister of a sibling of a friend from who I previously went to school named Becky Ryan. For those who don't know who I'm talking about here, Becky Ryan is the sister of someone who I twice went to school with named Gilday. And yeah, something I just knew I gotta do in honor of both James Levine and Becky Ryan, respectively, is to celebrate how both Sophia Bavaro and Brianna Gallo is not only simply make such parodies for both Sophia Bavaro and Brianna Gallo, but also at the same time, definitely would consider doing parodies that can easily highlight of how both Sophia Bavaro and Brianna Gallo can be as epic battles characters, which can range from specific girls who they had in their respective groups during their time as group leaders in the original epic battles, during the rest of the original epic battles, all the way to female counterparts for certain villains who did use either one of them as their respective poor unfortunate souls. However, that is all another discussion for another day. And when it comes to doing parodies in honor of people who sadly died ever since I began working parodies, I definitely will not begin doing until I get a lot of the viewer choices out of the way, which to give you all a recap for this one, Mulan won for my second annual viewer's choice. Cinderella won as part of a two-way tie. Cinderella won as part of my entire 100 subscribers viewer's choice tied in with Star Butterfly, who somehow tied up with Star Butterfly. And Kim Possible won for my third annual viewer's choice. And yeah. And speaking about discussion regarding viewers' choices, I got something I just knew I need to address. For those who don't know, last year, I officially finally made it to 100. Last spring, while the pandemic just began, I officially made it to over 100 subscribers on my YouTube channel. And to all those who have helped me do so, I couldn't just thank you. I'd be honored to thank all of you for your wonderful support. I'm always willing to improve. That's why you should all be glad that I apologize for what I said wrong about Morgan Ledger. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that means you, Harry Henry. Even though, as much as I will never apologize for what I said to Mr. Good about Rob Williams, at least be grateful for that. I did apologize for what I said wrong about Morgan Ledger back in 2018. If you know what I'm talking about, but yeah. But anyways, when discussing my plans for 100 subscribers, which I will be completely honest about myself, I should say this, I did so before the pandemic kicked in. They're not, for every milestone of subscribers for my YouTube channel, I would consider reaching out to my wife whenever I can. To begin with 100, there'd be not one, not two, but three things to make it extra special. First off will be, of course, a set of parodies of choice. Like different sets I would do for my YouTube channel whenever I feel like it. And then, of course, you also got, whatchamacallit? Oh, yes, right. And then, of course, you also got, Oh, yes. And then, of course, you also got being able to go out to eat at a local restaurant of choice. And then, of course, I would also, whenever I can, and then, of course, comes being at my local Apple Draft House to celebrate such moments, such highlights in my life. Which, unfortunately for me, as all of you guys can also tell, especially if you're a paratransit driver, if you're a Beeline paratransit driver watching this, or a Westchester County resident either way, who knows how I can do such a thing, how I would handle my life as a moviegoer nowadays. Ever since my 24th birthday has passed, it is a shame that I sadly never got into my local Alamo job to see movies again. But the good news is that as of next month, when May comes, I will be able to do so again. But unfortunately, the one that which I will say would be the closest one to where I live in the one in Yonkers, will not be the one open first. But when it does reopen, I will be able to begin hosting events when I have any free time with a bang by celebrating 100 subscribers for my YouTube channel as I rightfully promised. However, something that all of you should all be mindful about is that I'm not going to be rushing every single event I promised I would host at once, for it will all be based on a case-by-case basis, And to give you all a better idea of how so, well, I'm going to be completely honest about myself that, yeah, whether you all like it or not, there can be other reasons of how certain events can be put on hold for reasons other than COVID-19. But if you're curious on what they can be, well, if I can be very honest, what took me for over a month to wait to do the season's update vlog, well, let's just say, how do I put this? Oh, yes, right. You all know me up to this point, then you know not only how much I love Disney, but also I always love watching anime as well. Definitely no secret that I am a major fan of anime. And I'm not even gonna lie about myself when y'all hear me say this. I can go on all day how much you always enlighten to something like that. Now, don't get me wrong. There have been movies you review in the past that it can be disagreeing, that I on my own can be disagreeing on, but let him say whatever he wants as long as we're concerned. But yeah, when addressing why the long wait for the season update vlog, well, for over a month this month, I had no choice but to wait for, something I just knew I would want to be honest about. When one of those factors around how you can tell certain special events on my local house can be put on hold until further notice would be ones that are Disney themed, In which, for those who don't know, the animation look back that anime would do throughout this whole entire pandemic would be a second one looking back at will be one where anime can be seen taking a look back at Walt Disney Animation Studios Plus, which in this case, not only would you all go up to Frozen 2, but, when discussing what anime would talk about as part of the honorable mentions, not only would he once again look back at both Mary Poppins and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but also something I just knew anime will, on his behalf, will have to do, for say if he did another animation look back for Walt Disney Animation Studios in general, either way would be to look at more movies like that than just Mary Poppins and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. In this case, there'll be this third movie of that kind you bring up being Song of the South. And the funny thing about the fact that, the anime on his behalf would dare look at Song of the South of all things an episode of animation like taking a look at Disney of all things would be well. I can. No surprise that if I can be honest, how I feel about the fact that characters from Song of the South being in epic battles, I actually don't mind that. I actually support that a lot. I'd be lying if I cannot speak about that. I can understand why that is the case. Yes, it is a Disney movie, but also, surely you can say what you want about that movie, and you can pinpoint all you want of how that Disney, for whatever reason, don't seem to feel like release that movie on home media, nor even put it on Disney Plus. But either way, regardless on whether or not Song of the South will ever get its own proper DVD or Blu-ray release, and regardless on whether or not Song of the South will ever go to Disney Plus, and regardless of what you may think about Song of the South in general, there is no denying for a fact that there can be people like them who have nostalgic memories over Song of the South where it is. Whether it be seeing it on the big screen in the past, or just having to appreciate crossover me like in House of Mouse, or just appreciating it when taking a trip to the Disney parks to ride on Splash Mountain. And when understanding what Animal on his behalf would have for the next animation look back, it comes to my understanding that it would be the Muppets, Which, considering what Anima has decided to do for the next animation look back after Disney Plus, no pun intended, being the Muppets, I definitely will not be putting any Jim Henson themed events on hold just yet, for now. And it's funny that Anima on his behalf should say that he would take a break from animation look back. I mean, don't get me wrong, regardless of what Anima on his behalf has my animation look back, I highly look forward to see, of course. It's just that, so much of how that can be the case, Logan Miller, K2LDM has ideas of projects he wanted to work on. From my understanding of Logan Miller, K2LDM. Not only that, but also at the same time regarding, I definitely look forward to see what Anima has in mind for any future editorials coming out soon. And yes, also do watch his reviews as well, of course. So definitely look forward to see what has in mind for not just regular reviews, but also classic reviews as well. And yeah. However, animation look back wouldn't be the only thing that can somehow cause specialty events that can cause all my Disney parties on hold. But also can cause events that I may potentially host on hold, especially ones that are Disney themed. But also, it definitely does come to my understanding on my behalf that there are a lot of people like you who exist who, from my understanding, really love my work on parodies. Which, funny enough, I will say, when I have any free time when I'm not at either at culinary school or work of some sort outside of my group home, that I just knew that when I have any free time being at home, especially when I'm at my group home, that I just knew that I will want to save enough free time to get to release as much more parodies on my channel as much as I can, even get as much more editing done as I can. And I get it. You're all getting sick and tired of me making so-called 90-minute videos that are where there's no editing involved, But still, there's a lot to look forward to. Trust me on that, please. And yeah, those are the two usual factors on how you can tell certain special events can be put on hold until further notice. And then right now, there'll be not one, but two unusual events. There can be such thing as not one, but two unusual ones of how you can tell certain events can be put on hold until further notice. Now, the first one would be regarding another show I enjoyed watching, being a show called Death Battle. Now, when understanding the goings-on, when regarding what typically goes on behind the scenes during the making of Death Battle in general, usually comes from my understanding that usually the people who make the show would rather take one episode at a time, which is understandable, but for whatever reason, the people who made the show, just as they begin working on the current season they're making right now, that they ended up announcing a number of different characters, or combatants as they call it, in some upcoming episodes of Death Battle. And being as somebody who has nostalgic memories playing Soul Calibur back in middle school, I'm sure all of you guys can tell that I'm not only happy to see Yoda finally begin his once-in-a-lifetime chasing episode of Death Battle, but also, really can't wait to see Heihachi finally getting his once-in-a-lifetime chasing episode of Death Battle, because, let's be honest here, characters, if other Soul Calibur guest fighters like Spawn, Link, Darth Vader, and Kratos can all be given their own Death Battle episodes, can be combated in an episode of Death Battle, why not Yoda? And especially, why not Heihachi, But, yeah. Though I am still surprised to see that, for whatever reason, that we all still haven't seen Shadow fight against Waluigi, It's a total shame because, when it comes to the character of Waluigi, can be just me, but, I'm just one out of those many people who feel like how quote-unquote likable he is, And I just knew it can be a great idea if Waluigi can be given one's life touches in an episode of Death Battle, Now, when it comes to who Waluigi can fight, of course you got Shadow, and then of course you got Jane for Church and everyone who I often call out as you all may recall. I have, if you know me, how I can be with Jane about Disney streaming, then I would always say that she's the Waluigi of Disney. I mean, when it comes to the idea of Death Battle featuring Jane for Church, I'm sure a lot of Disney fans like them can find a with going that be inevitable that they will have to make one where Jane on her behalf can be seen fight against Melody, because, one thing that both Jane and Melody both have in common is that they're both offsprings who are main characters in a sequel to an animated Disney movie. Whereas the only reason why I would want to see Shadow pit a fight against Waluigi in an episode of Death Battle is because, one thing that both Waluigi and Shadow both have in common is that they're both characters from some really popular video game franchises who also would continue to appear as nothing more than just assist trophies to no end. And yeah. And then of course there's this other unusual factor, this time being, there is this show that Source Gaming on their behalf from my center they are currently doing, being one called Fighter Spirit, and if I can be honest what I think about Source Gaming. Now, as much as I will say that, I have ideas of some more SG choices. I have some more suggestive SG choice videos I want to see the people Source Gaming make whenever they feel like it. Either way, I'm definitely happy with what Source Gaming on the RBF has been putting out these days, Which, of course, not only got the show that the people at Source Gaming would be doing called Fighting Spirit, which I enjoyed watching, but also, another favorite memory I have with Source Gaming would be, there'd be this series of videos that Nintendix on his behalf would continuously host discussing the reality on how characters in general, why characters in general either get selected or get cut out of a Smash game, And yeah, something I come to realize what to do is, say, if I ever felt like hosting any special events, if I, say I feel like being there to, I don't know, host my own Wii party or my own, if I did consider hosting such events such as my own Wii party, my own Switch party, or my own, what you call it, oh yes, right, or any events that, or any of my own, either Best 2008 or Best 2014 or Best 2018 parties that I just really for the better if I can wait till, say, Source Gaming as a whole would. Now, when it comes to hosting my own Best of 2018 party, the same thing also be said whether if I do hosting any special events that are Wii themed, that I just knew that I will want to wait till, and wait till Source Gaming on their wait till Source Gaming on their behalf gets to release a video discussing why characters got cut out of Brawl, you know? And yeah, if you think asking fellow gamers on was not the all I think has to play team games while under the age of 12, that pointless, just have no idea why, which to give you all a recap on why that is the case, well, not only can I on my behalf be guilty of doing such things, especially being as some so-called Star Wars fanboy who exists, but also, when it comes to making my own Epic Battles games, that if I want to avoid letting it get an M rating, the lowest rating I can let your typical Epic Battles game go would be teen rated. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have nothing against the idea of making my own games I can get an E rating. It's just that, well, personally, it's just that, well, let's just say it all boils down. The reason why I wouldn't want to make as much of all my Epic Battles games versus Team Ranger games, these mostly boiling down to, well, the character roster. Now, for those who brainlessly have no idea what I'm talking about when you bring up Epic Battles, well, to give you an idea on what I would be legally compliant to do, or should I say, 88 compliant under Mercedes Productions of how I can be, how it should be, say, if I have any ideas of what Epic Battles games I want to make. Let's just say they're not, as these are fictional characters go, they're not one, not two, but three different kinds of fictional characters who can be in Epic Battles. First off, we got the more likelier ones being the ones who are quote-unquote family-friendly, like his characters from Disney, characters from Pixar, DreamWorks, TV shows like SpongeBob with the Fairly Odd Parents, and characters from Looney Tunes, characters from Hanna-Barbera, characters from games like Mario, Sonic, the grand majority of the games represented in Smash, Soul Calibur, Tekken, Street Fighter, Pac-Man, Mega Man, Street Fighter, Final Fantasy, and Kingdom Hearts, as well as stuff like Star Wars, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and anime as examples. As well as Mr. Koda, as well as all the reviews of our work with Mr. Koda. And then, of course, you got those who may technically appeal for a more early childhood-oriented audience, like it's stuff like The Works of Dr. Seuss, Winnie the Pooh, My Little Pony, Sesame Street, Thomas Tank Engine, Blue's Clues, Peter Rabbit, Clue Finders, and Jumpstart as examples. And then, of course, there can be some characters like them who surely can be in Epic Battles, but somehow may technically meant to be appeal for a more edgier audience, like it's some M-rated game, like it's characters from TV shows like The Simpsons, Family Guy, Game of Thrones, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer's examples, as well as characters from games like Metal Gear Solid, Halo, God of War, Bayonetta, and Tomb Raider as examples, as well as Spawn, as well as a number of YouTube celebrities who would typically swear in their respective videos. Like, it's the nostalgia critic, or people who have worked for Channel Awesome in the past, if y'all know what I'm talking about, like, which can not only be people like Wario, the Cinema Snob, and the video game examples, but also people like Angry Joe as well. And yeah, that's why I say that I can make an Epic Battles game that's teen rated no problem, but not E, you know? Y'all have to get used to. That means you, Colin Drum. You get it, I get it. You guys want to see me produce more family-friendly content, but you know, let's be honest here that there can be kids like them who would play a teen-rated game just as much as there can be adults as well, you know? But, yeah. It is what it is, so suck it. But, yeah. But anyways, going back to discussion regarding my 100 subscriber celebration, well, for those who don't know, for those who don't follow me on social media, I just recently opened up a poll, a second poll dedicated to my 100 subscriber celebration. Of course, I got a third one on the way in the works, which I will notify y'all for that, you know? And as you can tell when scrolling and voting through the entire poll, I have so many different ideas of different kinds of events that I would have loved to my own when I can, which can be done as either Battle of the Groups feast, or as the Ammo style feast, or as an all-you-can-eat cereal party. And yet, to give you all a better idea on how certain events would work, well, first off, let's talk about what I will honestly say I'd be most excited about out of all of them being ones that our Draft House recommends. For those who don't know what a Draft House recommends event would be like, usually it involves screening movies that all must see. But with the case of how I would interpret Draft House recommends Draft House recommends of all things, usually it would involve screening movies that, well, technically did get their own specialty menus, which I would often regard as one of my favorite memories being at the Alamo Draft House in general. However, that doesn't necessarily mean I liked all specialty menus that the Alamo Draft House has given out in the past. For I'd be lying if I cannot speak up about myself how can I put this? Oh yes, right. There are some I can say are my least favorites, you know? For the ones that, for whatever reason, whether you like it or not about me, don't agree with my taste buds for whatever reason, I say that for Tumble Schlock event. Which, as you can tell, the name applies to focus on things that really work. Stuff that really works. Anyways, when it comes to Draft House recommends, yeah, I typically be screening nothing but movies that did get their own special menus. And you know, when figuring out what to do with the different Disney remakes that did get it, like The Jungle Book, The Beast, and The Lion King as examples that I just knew that I would rather likely screen their respective originals, or in some cases, like with such movies like The Jungle Book and The Lion King as examples, I would consider screening their sequel as part of either a double or a triple feature, depending on a case by case basis, you know. Like, for example, for The Jungle Book, it will typically be a double feature consisting of the original movie and its 2003 sequel. So I'm not gonna lie when I say that I take that over the live action remake. Not that I hate it, but you know, let's be honest here. It's another live action remake is another live action remake, you know? I mean, don't get me wrong, there were things about the live action remake I like, but I just feel like Disney did what they could with The Jungle Book too, you know? And then, of course, when it comes to The Lion King, it would typically, when understanding how I can use your typical Lion King Battle of the Groups, usually it would be a triple feature, consisting of the entire trilogy, consisting of the movie, as was The Lion King, December's Pride, and The Lion King 1.5. And another, and then of course, I would also, and something I just knew that I promised myself I would do when my look on would draft us whenever I feel like the time is right would be, of course, I would consider bringing Out of Tune straight to Yonkers, which I'm also excited about just as much as Draft House recommends. And here's the thing in this case, with understanding the concept of Out of Tune, well, there's this term in art that exists being what is called underrated, Because, let's be honest here, don't lie to me when I say this, but we're always going to have at least just one movie or show or game or whatever where surely we as consumers on our own can feel like it's a masterpiece of some sort, but for whatever reason, it's not treated as the message we all thought it could have been on our own. Well, let's be honest here, art is subjective, but yeah. And I'm not even gonna lie how butthurt I am with the way comedy's been treated, Now, when you guys hear me say that bad comedy can play Fight or Kill Robin Williams, I wouldn't necessarily say that all comedy that's been putting out Chris Funnies are all bad. If anything, there can be comedies like them where there can be some really good comedies, like there can be good comedies like them that exist that come out of recent memory, which for whatever reason would continue to get mistreated. When it comes to comedy, as much as I love comedy, don't get me wrong about that. Not even gonna lie when you hear me say how buttered I also am with the fact that, well, the comedy in general can have its moments where it can be mistreated. Oh, you don't believe me? Well, you already got of how that you got some beloved hand-drawn animated movies that first came out in the 21st century, like The Emperor's New Groove and Mooch's Back in Action, which ended up being box office bombs. Not only that, but also, as much as I agree with Mr. Code regarding, as much as I love Blue Sky for what they do from animated movies, as much as I love Blue Sky for what they do, in fact, I'd be lying if I didn't mention of how that, when being honest, what I will honestly, my top 4 favorite Blue Sky movies, they typically be nothing but movies that are all standalone, which, to give you all an idea, number 1 would be Fortune User Who, number 2 would be the Peanuts movie, number 3 would be Spies in the Sky, number 4, it's Robots. Or if you're wondering where I put Ice Age, number 5. But yeah. Well, regarding what I will honestly say are my top 2 personal favorite Blue Sky movies being Fortune User Who and the Peanuts movie, you can't come to my saying that when talking to people like them and how they can be Blue Sky, there can be people like them who can be so harsh on Blue Sky just because that seems to that mean nothing but Ice Age sequels, as they say. Which, yeah. Mr. Code did bring up a valid point of how that, they did more than just Ice Age when they wanted to. Like, of course, they did their own adaptation of Dr. Seuss' Fortune User Who. They gave us their own Peanuts movie. Adapted the story of Ferdinand. Made their own movie about robots. And, yeah. And then, of course, let's not also forget that there can be people like them who like Blue Sky, like that people like them can be with Blue Sky can also be harsh on DreamWorks and Illumination. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can all say what you want about Blue Sky, you can all say what you want about DreamWorks as well as Illumination, And regarding DreamWorks, even though, yes, I can understand of how there can be people like them who would take DreamWorks how they've been during the beginning, like when getting all the way back, I guess during the days of, I can understand how that there can be people like them who would take what they did up to the days of Paramount, what they've been up to during days when June, which is working at Paramount, was owned by Paramount. There have been movies where that DreamWorks did either under Fox or Universal during initial release that I feel like deserves more praise than how much they've been given credit for. In fact, there's one animated movie that exists that DreamWorks did in 2017. I believe it was called Captain Underpants, the first epic movie, which I feel like it's one of the most funniest animated comedies I've ever seen. And funny story about this, I remember back in 2017, I went out to a local theater. No, not my local one, but different theater that used to exist. Anyways, I remember there was one weekend where I got to not one, but two animated comedies that made me laugh out loud the hardest, being Captain Underpants, the first epic movie, which I saw with my dad, and Despicable Me 3, which I saw with my girlfriend at the time. And yeah, I'm not even gonna lie though, when I saw both of those particular movies, I laughed out loud seeing them. And speaking about Illumination, yeah, they can be creative, as both Adam and Mr. Cook can kindly point out, you know? And, I really can't wait for the upcoming Minions sequel to come out soon. I highly look forward to see what Illumination has in mind when they make their own Mario movie, which I just knew it can be something even better than, I'm sure we can all agree, it can be something better. Can be one of those video game movies like them that can be so better than the one we got in the 90s with Bob Hoskins playing Mario, if y'all know what I'm talking about. Yeah. I just hope that Peach can be in it, you know? But, you know, something, to quote Dad, Peach is pretty hardcore. But, yeah. But anyways, when it comes to Out of Tune, yeah. Something I just knew that I would have loved to do is, you know, I just knew that I would love to bring Out of Tune to Yonkers, you know, from another Alamo Jackson Yonkers being the one in Brooklyn. For, you know, I find it interesting that such a thing can exist, you know, where we as an entire movie going audience or gaming audience or gaming community can be there for us, you know, we can be there to highlight how butthurt we as either film buff or gamers can be when a specific movie or game does get wrongly mistreated. Oh, you don't get one going? Well, some ideas of some out-of-tune events I would love to host can include some dedicated to home, that are home media themed, like one for VHS, one for DVD, and one for Blu-ray. When it comes to VHS, yes, it may be irrelevant now, but, you know, you really cannot deny that there can be people like them, people like myself, and Mr. Code as examples, who can have nostalgic memories over the VHS tape for what it is, you know, because, yeah. I'd be lying if I cannot speak up for myself out that there are plenty of movies or TV shows like them that I feel like can be deserving of VHS release, but sadly didn't for whatever, particularly when it's over here in the United States, which is what I just know to focus on. And as you guys can clearly see for yourselves, yeah, I will be screening Song of the South. I would consider screening Song of the South for some out-of-tune battle movies, you know. And then, of course, you got whatchamacallit, and yeah, we speak about ideas of Nintendo-themed events I would consider hosting. I would consider hosting one that is definitely will want to host some that are Game Boy Advance video themed, you know. For when regarding Game Boy Advance video, I will say I find it really interesting that such a thing exists. Especially being as somebody who has nostalgic memories with Game Boy Advance for what it is, and being as somebody who loves watching cartoons like crazy, you know. And yeah. Also regarding Out of Tune, that I would host some that are video game themed, like some that are Switch themed, especially since, we as gamers who enjoy, who currently own a Nintendo Switch, can all feel a particular way about it. There's always a handful of games like them, that is a handful of third-party games like them, there's just a low repertoire way that I'm sure we can all feel can be deserving Switch ports. Whether it be a game like The Sims arcade game, or a game like Wolfenstein 3D, or a game like, or some missing classic Star Wars games like It's Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, or Star Wars: The Force Unleashed, or Soul Calibur 2, or Soul Calibur 4, or yeah. There are a lot of different good choices of games that I feel like can be deserving, that can be worthy of its own Switch port, A lot of good choices. Yeah. I would also consider hosting one that's virtual console themed. And yeah, when it comes to being at the Alamo to host my own Sonic Adventure 2 tournaments, usually we will typically be playing the GameCube version, Especially since the GameCube version has more characters you can play as in Sonic Adventure 2 than the original Dreamcast version. I mean, nothing against the Dreamcast version, so the GameCube version has more to offer than the Dreamcast version. I'm playing both of the existing Sonic Adventure games, but that's just me, Especially being somebody who has nostalgia for the GameCube, As much as the PlayStation 2, especially when it is, but yeah. And I'm sure what all of you guys watching this can easily find surprising that I would do for some future special events is I would consider hosting one that are Disney themed, as well as Pixar themed, as well as Marvel themed and Star Wars themed. Now I'm gonna be completely honest with this one, Do keep in mind that for what I would do in terms of hosting my own events at my local draft house, do keep in mind they are nothing more than just private events. So unfortunately, as much as I would love to keep my events as welcoming as they can be, I do reserve the right to outright ban anyone from any of my own events when I want to. Usually for safety reasons, for the most part. And yes, even health as well, but more importantly, safety, And, yeah. And the good thing about renting out the Amadrash is compared to any other thing is that, at least I can do whatever I want to do for a private event, whether it be hosting my own movie party or my own TV party, my own video game party, whatever. Yeah. And yeah. But, whenever you can, the link to phase 2 of my 100 subscribers, viewer choice can be found in the link to the poll for phase 2 of my 100 subscribers, viewer choice can be found in the description below. And yeah, but moving on from that, I have other things I just knew I also have to talk about on my behalf. As of right now, there's something I feel like I just knew at some point down the road, where in case of, if I can remember, I just knew I had to address. Now, for those that don't know, last summer I already apologized for what I said wrong about Morgan Ledger. But anyways, when taking a look back at this one video I did back last summer, I came to realize there was just one mistake I admittedly made. And I'm sure it's not what all of you expect me to say. In this case, well, if you're all curious what is that so-called mistake I made in that video, well, up to that point in time, I was addressing of how, well, if you really think Azuchi Guardian doesn't, if you still think Azuchi Guardian exists, then you are a neo-Nazi for believing such lies. Because there's a reason why I say that about people like you. Because, when it comes to Zuchi Guardian, yes, he did a lot of bad things. He made a lot of terrible mistakes, let alone did bad things in life. Let alone just did things I'm sure we can all agree should not have done. But let's be honest here. Even someone who may be as big of a drinking level as Zuchi Guardian can make such an impact on history just like somebody did good things, That's pretty much about that there can be people like that who can be what they're called neighbors, And every time every time anyone for that matter say this, people like them who would say such things are just looking to glorify Holocaust denial, So I can see why I would consider calling Morgan Ledger out as a neo-Nazi, Not that hate on his Guardian is a problem, but rather how he handles such things, Because, I'm just sad to say this, that, Morgan Ledger, he just needs to learn to respect history for what it is, Because that's what got me to call him out as a neo-Nazi in the past, because, he just brainlessly has no idea of how his Guardian made such an impact on not just me, but also not one, but two good ones. And as all of you guys can also tell when hearing me talk about this Guardian when I feel like it, he'd be the polar opposite of Anime, which in this case, unlike with Anime, where he did things for the better, as Zuchi Guardian, on the other hand, did things for the worse, As for what said mistake I made at that point in time, I will say this, that in terms of how Zuchi Guardian made such an impact on the world forever, I'd be lying if I cannot speak up about it myself as well, know that I would be legit if I said that I did lose a lot of friends because of Zuchi Guardian, even having the guts to get into a falling out with Mike Mixtape because of Zuchi Guardian. And yeah, that's what with the so-called falling outs that occurred between me and Mike Mixtape, blame Zuchi Guardian, because, yeah. I would also be legit that if it weren't for Zuchi Guardian, not only would I not have lost my friendship with Mike Mixtape of all things, but also if it weren't for Mike Mixtape, if it weren't for Zuchi Guardian, epic battles would not be remembered as if we're to be another Knives Out. When you hear me say that, I'm not just meaning it's a hit, but also either way, For those who have no idea what I'm saying when you say such things like that as an example, well, it definitely does come to my understanding that Dante can get really particular how to handle epic battles. That's where, as you can tell, have a good Guardian, he can be a mental Ryan Johnson when he wants to be, As for how he handled things like opponent presentation, it'd be treated like it's another Last Jedi, Where you can say what you want about such things, but at the end of the day, it's still canon, whether you like it or not. And then, of course, I would also be legit when you guys hear me say that Zuchi Guardian did, in fact, illegalize the idea of preschool kids popping up in crossovers, even when they've done sorts of live games. I'm not even going to lie to this, that I do blame the Zuchi Guardian of how that Winnie the Pooh never got his own Disney figure, and that characters like Peter Rabbit and Frankie never get to be in Smash. And I especially blame Zuchi Guardian for things like Dr. Seuss, Sesame Street, Blue's Clues, Lazy Town examples, which will all not be represented in whatever like the dimensions. And I especially blame Zuchi Guardian for not letting Nickelodeon do a crossover between SpongeBob and Blue's Clues or stuff along those lines. We're talking the idea of, say, do a crossover project, whether it be a game or whatever, that can involve use of both Nicktoons and Nick characters at the same, crossing over at the same time. And I would also be legit when you guys hear me say of how that Zuchi Guardian not only ruined Jaime to his birthday, but also Morgan Ledger's birthday, thus causing me to outright quit making birthday message videos on my YouTube channel. Which is a total shame, because for what I really did try to, as you can see for yourself, I just want to make them feel good. But no! Zuchi Guardian kicked in. He just ruined the birthdays of whoever's I'll be celebrating. which can not only be true for what he did to Jaime too, but also Morgan Ledger. Also, at the same time, if it weren't for Zuchi Guardian, just knew Morgan Ledger would be more nicer to whenever I feel like, more nicer to me when he feels like it. I say that for something I did point out in my spring 2020 update videos that that Zuchi Guardian is not afraid to openly admit about himself that he did in fact put Morgan down about me for some reason. And then of course, as for the said thing I said about Zuchi Guardian and why, well, let's just say, I wouldn't say it's a lie per se, but rather a misunderstanding on my part. The said mistake I made, well, for what I really wasn't being legit about regarding Zuchi Guardian, in this case, when I apologize for what I said wrong for Morgan Pedophile, would be, well, how do I put this? Oh, yes, in terms of how he impacted Nicholas Centro as a whole, especially when he felt like doing work on this one, doing his own review show, simply known as The Great Gamer Boy Fan. For those who don't know what I'm talking about here, The Great Gamer Boy Fan is an upcoming review show that my dear good friend Nicholas Centro, aka Banana Gamer 105, would do on his own YouTube channel. And for what I said wrong about Nick in terms of how Zuchi Guardian Nick as a whole would be when you guys hear me say that Zuchi Guardian did in fact put Nicholas Centro down regarding how it can be with My Little Pony. However, the reality regarding how Nicholas Centro and his behalf can be with My Little Pony is that no Zuchi Guardian never, and I mean never, was Nicholas Centro ever a fan of My Little Pony at all to begin with. If anything, for whatever reason, there was one time all those years ago where he did sit through 4 episodes of My Pony Friendship Magic, but for whatever reason hated the entire show just knew as Zuchi Guardian do, and did originally consider reviewing it as part of the entire Gamer Boy Fan, and don't expect it to be a positive review, But instead he would just get all angry against the show for what it is, But then as Zuchi Guardian brainlessly thought that Nick likes My Pony, that's where next thing you know, The Great Gamer Boy Fan My Little Pony Friendship is Magic got cancelled. And oh boy, what a retard Zuchi Guardian is being. Yeah, see why I keep calling him out as a retard? He'd be acting like one. So there's no way in hell he can believe everything he says, Tim Johnson and Harry Henry, because, he can't always believe everything he says, especially regarding not just the reality of Nicholas Centro in general on his own, on certain things, but also the reality of how he's been in general ever since I cut ties with the Zuchi Guardian. But anyways, yeah. That is Nicholas Centro's stance on My Little Pony in a nutshell. He really does always hate My Little Pony what it is, I am not making that part up about how Nick can be with My Pony, how much he hated that show, It's true. And speaking about Morgan Ledger of all people, looks like I have no choice but to do another response to him. After my birthday, my 25th birthday has passed, as happy as I am that it's just regarding those whatever did not even feel like bugging me or anyone feeling both past and present. One thing I will say for sure that either way definitely does come to mind, saying that for what Morgan Ledger has been up to, well, it definitely does come to my understanding that Morgan Ledger clearly is now starting up another minor problem he has surrounding my work on update videos, which in this case, not only does he have issues in continuing making videos, but also making all my other vlogs unedited. And here is my, and if I could be honest, how I would react to what Morgan had to say, if I had his problem with me Ken involved, if I could always leave my update vlogs unedited, excuse me for a moment. Okay. Here we go. Here is my reaction to what Morgan had to say not too long ago. Got my work done. Update vlogs in a nutshell. Hold up for one moment. Sorry about that, people. I'm just wearing Bluetooth headphones as well. And here we go. And yeah, that is what I have to say about Morgan regarding making such childish comments. Morgan, as if whatever reason you're watching this, as much as I still love what you do for it as a content creator, you need to learn to move on from whatever happened in the past, accept your disabled viewership for your art. That's how you get in trouble with the ADA. And next thing you know, you're going to treat it like it's some New York joke. Yeah. And yeah, in all seriousness, there's a good reason why I leave my vlogs unedited, you know? That's because when I'm saying the making of your typical vlog, it's different from, say, your typical review or your typical parody. In this case, when understanding, which I remember Stevie Swigard did point out in the past of how, a valid point of how that, yeah, there is a difference between a vlog and a review. Whereas when you're making your typical vlog, it would be all unscripted. Whereas when you're doing a review, you would need to write a script. That's why, with the case of doing a vlog, editing would be unnecessary, you know? Not that you can't edit your own vlogs, you can if you wanted to. It's just that, well, editing a vlog would be just like wearing winter clothes during the summertime. I wouldn't do that if I were you. But yeah, that's just me doing whatever I feel like, you know. And when it comes to what you call it? Oh yes, right. And then of course, when it comes to making a review, that's where I would find myself more going with saying if I made a review, you know. Of course, there would not be a script being involved, but also editing as well. And all that, of course, same for how things can typically be with a review, the same can also be said regarding the same parody. Now, when understanding the making of your typical parody, I can definitely see where Morgan on his going of how it can be necessary to that point in time of how that editing would be needed, because, you know, believe me when I say this, I watch parodies all the time whenever I feel like it. When understanding the making of your typical parody, from my personal experience, of course, editing would always be involved. For when understanding the making of your typical parody, of course, there'll be so much change happening to whatever it is you'd be parodying, whether it be a scene from the movie Downfall, or a scene from The Simpsons, or whatever it is you want to parody, you know? If you know what I mean. And yeah, if you really don't like that I always leave my update vlogs unedited, I don't know what else to tell you other than I'm sorry. It is what it is. However, I will say this about myself, that I did make one rare exception to the rule dating all the way back last spring. Which I will admit that I did get to do so mainly because as of last spring, I had no choice but to remain in lockdown at my group home throughout the majority of last spring. Because do keep in mind from what happened during the majority of last spring is back when we, as New Yorkers, where we, as society, especially over here in New York, all get to be in lockdown for when the coronavirus pandemic just officially began. And yeah, that is that. And now there's something else I just knew I have to address. This time it's regarding the use of the R word, if you know what I'm talking about. For those who don't know, I've been consuming the word retard to describe individuals when I feel like it. Guys can say that anyone. No, I wouldn't necessarily do so to discriminate over, say, someone with a disability, because for those who don't know, for those who may have brainlessly forgotten, I support equal rights, I must say, especially when I'm kind of arts, say. However, the really real reason why I would just use the word retard when I feel like I'm describing not just people like the Guardian, but also same thing to be said about people like Keelan Corker and Wheatley, who, believe me when I say this, I will happily get into later, would be, well, more about later, is that, there can be people like Azuchi Guardian, Keelan Corker, Wheatley, as an example, who know how to play things stupid without brainlessly realizing they're doing so. And, yeah. They're just people like them who just love to play things stupid, do stupid crap when they feel like it, like slandering me, spreading lies about me. Anything that can, quote-unquote, go against either the ADA, anything that you can think of as that can be considered as either ADA, or an OSHA violation against considered productions. Yeah, that's people like Tim Johnson and Henry and Ron Nacho. Guilty enough, and then they just committed some OSHA violations against considered productions. Same thing with especially, yeah. Definitely would always get in trouble with OSHA in the past when we wanted to. But anyways, speaking of discussion about trolls, I just knew that I had to end this video on a bang by getting discussion regarding Uriel, Wheatley. Now, what can I say, people, other than I hate Uriel? At least now I do. Here's why. Now, if you've been watching a number of past update vlogs I made, then you know, and you can tell how infuriated I am with what Uriel put me through. And if you think hating on Azuchi Guardian is objectively good just because, you're just saying that just because, most people have criticized it, usually typically meanwhile by wanting to be there, by nothing more than just wanting to help him improve, help him grow, as Kenny me as an example. Perhaps you really have no idea that you got someone like Wheatley as an example, who can be guilty of proving him to be his what a major troll is. Right, what a major troll is, And it is a shame that there can be people like Morgan Ledger, as an example, who for whatever reason would follow the footsteps of Wheatley, in terms of how to handle engagement with Wheatley, because Wheatley, when you tell you all for a fact, that means you, Aaron Henry as well, and at the same time, also you said about Morgan Ledger, if you happen to be watching this for whatever reason, as well as time to message, as well as time to screen friends screen, he is not somebody you want to spend time with for the long run. Oh, you don't believe me? Well, let me tell you for a fact that there are people like them in general, just who surely I may still consider cherish my friendship with, but either way, I can tell you that, when it comes to Wheatley, he's a major nut job. Let me tell you that for a fact. And, when it comes to Wheatley, he's just bad news to Macedo Productions. And yeah, you heard that right. If, say you're somebody who has either worked on or a fan of either Epic Battles or Casual Spare work, this Steam Hams medium in general, especially if you're one of those people who enjoy my work on Steam Hams dubs, you will hate on Uriel for the rest of your life. Because, Uriel Wheatley, let me tell you, he's just being a mental retard who just brainlessly have no idea what the hell he's saying, And let's be honest here. The only reason why Uriel doesn't like me talk about casual is that, You tell how butthurt he is of how the what his Guardian did for casual use. I wouldn't be surprised to say if not only Morgan Legend is back, but also Hiatus and the rest of Driving Mutants know about, did somehow get to be there, regardless of what they thought about me, in general, that there is no denying that it wouldn't be surprising to me if, say, not just Morgan Legend on his behalf, but also Hiatus and the rest of Driving Mutants all seem to know about it, say, when as Guardian did be such a pig on my review show, if y'all know what I'm talking about here. Oh, you don't follow what I'm saying here? Well, you don't know what I'm talking about here? Well, let's just say I tried taking these videos down before, but for whatever reason, you guys can tell Juju Guardian is such a slick pig to be around. Juju Guardian can be such a slick person to be around. And yeah, when being honest how I've been with what I did to my review show in the past, you should be able to see why I would consider calling him out as a pig, as well as somebody who would go all creepy sentimental on whatever it is he worked on in the past. And the funny thing about my frustration on how I can be with what he did to my review show is that, I just say if I felt like being on my local Ammo Draft House right now towards my own best self. Teen Party just have to put up a lot of films content to highlight one of my least favorite memories of 2016. Yeah, I'm not even gonna lie that I can go on all day on what made 2016 such a bad year for me, including of how there have been so much at times where I have to deal with these disregarded things and bugging me no end. But don't try to. And then of course, I'm pretty sure those who are part of the topic, those who don't come at the best, or can have the best for what it is, can find it understandable of how, say, if I felt like being on my local Armor Draft House right now and host any events dedicated to Phase 4 of the entire Epic Battles for the Ninth Universe, which for those who don't get what I'm talking about here, it's pretty much promoting Epic Battles for of all things of some sort, that I would happily consider putting up, picking out what to include during pre-show for your typical Epic Battles, like, this Phase 4 event, considering how it would promote Epic Battles 4, where the Guardian on his behalf, for whatever reason, did get to be his own full lifetime as a group leader, that, that I would put up a lot of Disney films themed content, also as part of my frustration. Yeah. And that's that. And yeah. I'm not even gonna lie how much I hated what Azuchi Guardian did to my review show. And thank God he hasn't been touching upon casual reviews on its own channel in years, in over 2 years. I'm especially not even gonna lie how happy I am that for whatever reason, Azuchi Guardian on his behalf did not even feel like bothering touching upon casual reviews in general during the entire 5th anniversary of the show, if you don't talk about, during the Christmas in 2015, thus allowing me to enjoy a happy Christmas. My first out of 2 consecutive happy Christmases as I'm currently recording this. But also, I'm not even gonna lie how happy I am that it's just running his behalf. As much as I can find it understandable how that, that it can't just help but does, because, let's be honest here, we as content creators can all feel that way for us in that show. But anyways, I'm glad it didn't bother bugging me, nor didn't bother speaking about me, nor bugging any of my affiliates. Not even Nicholas Hunter, nor even Rowdy C. The thing about how I've been with Rowdy C as much as I'm still good friends with him on social media, I am not even gonna lie about myself when I say this, that I'm not even a contributor on his website anymore, and for those who don't know, and to give you all a recap on how it's been, especially when addressing the future of casual music as well, that it has been decided that I would go all YouTube exclusive, That's because, things, when understanding the entire history of internet review shows, there's even another piece of media that can exist for that matter that can be such thing as what's called an evolution. For if you know the internet review show history stuff, things have changed a lot. Like, such events like the apocalypse occurred, the closure of Blip, change of channel. Now, there are even critics like Animat, as example, who somehow have the guts of surviving on YouTube. And the funny thing about this discussion I'm having right now is that, being honest, how I handle my life as a viewer regarding all my favorite review shows, of course there will be one certain time period where I would go on some of my favorite websites, like just go to friends or to also an example to watch or something like a review when I want to, which would typically be the case back when Blip was such a big deal among critics. Now that Blip is gone, looks like nowadays I'd be using the actual video browser such as YouTube, Vimeo, Dailymotion, BitChute, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I rest my case as usual, I definitely look forward, and yeah. Before I can end off on this season not too long, but I'd like to say one more thing that if you're really one of those people who are getting sick and tired of me uploading videos that are not so long censored but also unedited, you have a lot to get excited about. That means you, Morgan. And yeah, right now I rest my case and hope you have a happy spring. Stay safe, wear a mask, do social distancing, wash your hands, and you get the idea. Yeah.